how can we transform enterprises, especially in the world and the day that we live in today, which keeps changing, keeps evolving, keeps throwing surprises at us that we would not have thought possible just a month ago, 12 months ago. So how can we use coaching? How can we use team coaching to really drive and empower that enterprise transformation? Stay tuned for the answer. Hello and welcome to Erickson Live, where today we are having an evangelist with us, an enterprise transformation evangelist, and his name is Paul Gossen. Paul has, over the past 30 years, conducted more than 100 business transformation projects worldwide, among those early stage companies, as well as dozens of Fortune 500 companies around the world. He is the CEO and founder of the Q Drive Institute. And Paul is a global expert in questions based consulting and facilitation. As a CEO coach, he has spent years asking key questions to assist executives to formulate an ideal company strategy. He also works with executive teams to accelerate their company transformation. He's a specialist in executive team alignment and working with technical teams of engineers, technology experts, and scientists. Paul, we're very glad to have you. I skipped about 90% of your bio there. What else might you have people know so that they know they're in good hands with you today?
Well, I live in Vancouver, Canada. I've been an Erickson trainer for 20 years. I love coaching, and I really am very passionate for the difference that we can make for people in companies. So that's
Oh,
me.
wonderful. Yeah, great. So, Paul already mentioned he's in Canada. Where are you joining us from? I'm based here in Nairobi, in Africa. So, Nairobi, Kenya, Africa, that's the scale. And where are you joining us from? Ericsson is really proud of having a global community and having, input and views from all over the world, which enrich our discourse so much and the approach that we have. So I would love to know where you are joining us from. And I would love to know what your interest and your experience maybe with company transformation is. Um, so what would you like to get out of today's stream would be really interesting for me. What questions do you already have? And yeah, because we want to do the best we can in order to have you walk away with your mind blown a little bit and really encouraged and inspired. So we already have somebody writing us in from Azerbaijan, Angers in France. Wonderful. So keep it coming. Um, Nairobi, Kenya as well. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, so Paul, the year is young, but given the time that we've spent already, and given, when I see everyone, oh my God, 2021 is stepping up to be even worse than 2020. Let's counter that a little bit. What's been the highlight of your year so far?
Well, I'm right in the middle of a big global transformation of a IT company. So, frankly, we kind of started that just in December, but the official kickoff was, mid-January. And so, for me, I love, that is what I'm most passionate for, and I appreciate the challenge. Every organizational transformation project is a unique challenge, and so, for me, that's a game worth playing.
Oh, yeah, I love the idea of having it be a game. And this stream, if you will, if you allow me the turn of phrase, is a bit of a world game as we have more people joining from Lebanon, again from France, Azerbaijan, the Netherlands. Um, and Benjamin is actually asking a question that fits right into the beginning here. What types of transformation are companies interested in 2021?
Well, this is a great question, and we're getting to the heart of transformation. So, unfortunately, the word transformation, when I first started, when I wrote my first book, Business Transformed in 2005, it was kind of still fresh. Now it's overused to the point of being meaningless. Most companies, when you say transformation, they think technology transformation, like installing new software to improve something. that's just one facet. I think strategic transformation is really critical. Um, uh, but the most important part is people transformation, which is transforming the mindset and energy of the people in a company. And, for me, we could go back to Milton Erickson and his definition of transformation, high on the logical levels, identity level transformation. But, really, I think transformation is rooted in ontology, the work of Heidegger, and especially the Zen poetry from the 16th century.
Okay, so to the few people in the audience that might not immediately know what that means, what would you define transformation as? When we talk about transformation, what is it that we're really dealing with, if it's not just installing a new software?
So, let's go back to Milton Erickson and the logical levels, and we would say that transformation is a shift in the way you see yourself. So that's right at the heart of the identity level, which is the most misunderstood part of the logical levels. And so identity level transformation is the essence of real transformation. Now, most of us, we think of that on the personal level, like I'm transforming or I'm having a coaching conversation with one person to create a transformation or a shift in the way they see themselves, which is also a point of view change. See, this is my coaching geek coming out. But you can scale that up to a team transformation, to a company transformation, to a global transformation. So a transformation for every human on Earth would be a transformation in the way we collectively, as the human race, see ourselves. And so transformation's natural and automatic, as Milton would say. Change is inevitable. Transformation just happens. The question is it intentional or reactive?
Yeah, that's exactly what was exactly my thought as you were saying that transformation just happens. It's like, does it? Should it? Or shouldn't we maybe take the reins a little bit and see where that wave takes us and harness it in a way?
Well, I mean, coming back to the past year, this has been the biggest transformation for in the last, 40 years, perhaps. And so everyone's life has been fundamentally altered. And within the lower levels of the time and space and energy and action that got altered, there's a core transformation in our values and how we see ourselves that's driven by the pandemic. So, and of course, this is happening at the individual level. It's deeply personal for everyone, but it's also happening at the company level, and companies are reevaluating everything. So we're right in the middle of the biggest transformation in business in the last 40 years right now.
Yeah. And actually, the question of an anonymous LinkedIn user fits in really nicely with that. They're asking, how would enterprises change in forthcoming years on the values level? So you are saying they're questioning everything, they're re-examining everything, right? So to that very personal, on a company scale, transformation, on that process of looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing, is this what the world needs right now? What do you think is going to happen?
Well, okay, so value level transformation, which is the second main form of transformation. So the thing is, when we say values, as coaches, we all love values, and values are single words that are positive, that represent an ideal state of being. So, but then remember, we also have this thing called business. And so in the world of business, there's this thing called value. How does a company create value? So you want to look at those two things together. How does a company create value? And then how do we represent that value using positive emotion words? So that's value versus values. And the most important thing is those two things are always inherently linked. So values are the motivational structure for any kind of change. And so if you can harness that motivational structure, now the question is your company transformation being driven by an external set of values or an internal set of values? So the problem is external values tend to be very weak and brittle and reactive. And true inner strength, as we know as coaches, comes from your internal values. And so scaling that out to a team, to a project, to an entire company, you could say that a company transformation is driven by the company being inherently connected to a shared set of internal values. And so linking that all together is the essence of company transformation, just like personal coaching.
Hmm. Now, if I was a bit more cynical, I would maybe say something like, I don't know, values, isn't that what you put on the flyer to, to greenwash a little bit and fill out your CSR portion of the webpage? Isn't valuation much more important? Isn't just the bottom line for for the stakeholders what ultimately counts?
Well, this is a great question, and we always want to honor the critic and cynic part of the brain because all of us are critical and cynical at some level. That's the kind of reactive reptile that wants to just eat food. Um, so we have to honor that. So valuation is a function of a company's ability to create value, ultimately, right? And so the question is, does having a strong connection to your values and motivation for an organization, does that translate to a higher value? I mean, there's some wonderful research that says yes, but I think much more emphatically, when we talk about the connection between value, company value, and valuation, what you're looking for really is a people transformation. So there's a transformation in the mindset and skills of the people to create more value. And that is driven by values, or it's one of the components is values. Look, you can't just do it all on values. You need to have purpose, mission, a strategy, a plan, and you got to implement, you got to take action, you got to work at all of, you have to work from current state to desired state and have committed action in order to create a breakthrough result.
Hmm. Okay, so today's topic is business transformation through team coaching. So inherent in that is the assumption that team is a valuable element of a company, right? Of an enterprise. It is kind of a scope or a unit within a company that is worth looking at, but because it is distinct, it is more than just the sum of the individuals that are working in it. Um, so yeah, I mean, very broadly. So how can team coaching play a role in this value-based transformation that you were talking about?
Well, for me, I'm incredibly passionate about team coaching, and I kind of fell in love with team coaching in 2005. And I just team coaching for me is it's one of those power tools for creating organizational transformation, because nothing moves faster than a team. Nothing has the team intelligence, the problem solving capability of that kind of ideal team. So, in terms of the enterprise transformation methodology, I've done a lot of projects. So we've kind of systematized an enterprise transformation methodology, which is very light and lean. And mostly it comes down to empowering multi-siloed teams in an organization around a set of team breakthrough projects. You could think of those as kind of like an agility portfolio of company transformation projects, and really supporting those teams to produce breakthrough results and become champions of the change process in an organization. That's all driven by a team coaching culture. And so some of that is, me or the other team coaches working with the team as a coach, but a lot of it is just the mindset and skills of taking on a team coach style of communication and empowering champions to take that on. So I'm not sure if that answers your question. I think we would put team coaching at the center of the matrix of organizational transformation.
Hmm. One point of clarification. What are multi-silo teams and why is it important to have teams that are cross-cutting is probably the word that I would use for myself.
Sure. I mean, you've got multidisciplinary, multi-silo. Most companies, so, we just got to get back to the structure of companies. So most companies after World War II were organized based on the model of how the military runs, where you've got a nice solid hierarchy of command and control, and then you've got the directive style of leadership, the MBA mindset, and the whole concept of scientific management, which is the idea that you only make decisions based on empirical data and some kind of math formula. And so all of those things are very addictive, but frankly, they don't work very well in the modern world. We're in the modern world now, we're dealing with change, complexity, volatility, and the markets are changing. The environment is changing very fast. The question is, how fast can the organization change? And there's always a smaller disruptive company that is coming to eat your lunch. And so the question is, are you going to be the dinosaur that dies, or are you going to be the lean, agile company that transforms continuously? So let's just say you want to be the second. You want to be the lean, agile company that transforms continuously.
Yes, please.
So, go ahead.
No, yes, please. I'm just affirming
Okay.
that choice.
So,
Yes.
so I mean, in order to do that, you're moving from a directive, command and control style of organization toward an open and flexible organization. And the very heart of that is, you could call them multi-silo teams. So you could think of it like you've got a hierarchical lines of reporting, and most organizations are organized that way. And frankly, you can't quite get rid of that in most companies. But when you set up a series of breakthrough projects, we're essentially cross-cutting through the organization to get groups of teams that are going to step out of their primary role and have a secondary project role where they're committed to producing a breakthrough result, or a skunk works or game-changing breakthrough idea in an organization. So those game-changing breakthrough projects, a lot of them don't work, but the ones that do end up transforming the company. So that's the game.
Got it. I was struck by the fact that you very nonchalantly and in a very confident manner said that nothing moves as fast as a team. And if you've ever tried to have a group of people decide where to go for lunch, you might have had a different experience because there's this adage out there that groups don't decide, right? So how come that you postulate that nothing moves quite as fast as teams?
Well, look, if you've ever had a chance to take the Erickson's high performance team coaching workshop, there's a whole section in there on how teams make decisions. And a lot of those team decision making structures are slow, or they just don't work very well. So, what is a high performance team? And, you could say, high performance is a really interesting idea, the idea that some people are high performance and some people are low performance. But if you want to get at the heart of that, I would say the essence is what we would call a high alignment team. So moving from a state of low alignment to a state of high alignment is kind of the ultimate secret weapon of team coaching and enterprise transformation. So
And
in
just
a
to jump
low
in there, for people who don't know the logical levels, what is aligned with what?
Well, it doesn't have to work with the logical levels. A low alignment team is dominated by confusion, uh, strategic competition. So, just for the rest of your life, never say the two words "my idea" again, right? So if you never say the word "my idea" again, you're giving up the whole idea of idea ownership. And so idea ownership is when you present your idea, you want to be successful, and you want everyone to agree that your idea is the best. And in most companies, every manager is fighting to have their idea be the best idea. And so then you just have a zero-sum game of all the energy of the company cancels out. So low performance, low alignment is, confusion, and there's a lot of confusion, competition, idea competition, and complexity. We're being inundated with complexity, and ultimately distraction is the ultimate one. The 2,617 is the number of times the average information worker touches their phone, right? So if you think about how much of the organizational energy of a company is being used, eaten up in distraction, is it 90% or is it 99%, right? So if you can push back on any of those low alignment activities to move toward high alignment activities, so high alignment goes like this: one team, one dream, right? So everyone has the same vision. They're all moving in the same direction. There's a sense of alignment. Everyone kind of gets the strategy and the plan. They've all agreed on it. And then they just go off in a state of 100% commitment, and produce amazing results. And so you can produce results really fast with a high alignment team. The question is, how do we get a high alignment team? And the answer is team coaching.
Yeah, let's jump into that. So, last week with Marilyn Atkinson, we talked a little bit about what makes a great team, what is the journey that a team goes through, what kind of different teams are there, all these kind of things. Um, uh, Without kind of retreading all of that, um, but at what point does a team qualify for the label high alignment? How do we know that we've got it?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, last night I was in the middle of the night. I was staying up with my current enterprise transformation project, and it's a global enterprise transformation project, which global is code for, in the old days, that meant sitting on a plane for 12 hours and flying around the world twice a month. Nowadays, that means waking up in the middle of the night because you have a Zoom call with Asia, Europe, and America at the same time, and someone has to be up in the middle of the night, and it looks like it's me. So last night in the middle of the night, we had this exact process where we're working through a team alignment process. And look, Marilyn and I collaborate an awful lot. We also are a little competitive too, and we are always challenging each other with ideas. We've had this very collaborative, competitive relationship for the last 20 years. And I'm reductionist, so I take all of Marilyn's brilliant ideas and simplify them down into like keywords. That's the essence of everything I do. That's the whole, what the Q model is just simplified solution focused coaching. But the one thing I would say is you have to make use of the visual brain, specifically the visual spatial brain. And so, like a classic example, let's just share my screen here. I'm just going to share my screen and bring up some mural, just as a case in point for the visual spatial brain. And I need a new mural. Well, we won't do it right now. So for example, if you're putting a bunch of Post-it notes on a piece of paper with a team, virtual Post-it notes or real Post-it notes, and you're moving those Post-it notes around, as soon as you start moving the Post-it notes around, you're starting to speak directly to the visual spatial brain. So, for example, the game Tetris, you've got a little block that is falling and you have to rotate it as it falls. That you can only do that using the visual spatial brain. And the reason people love Tetris is because when you relax into the visual spatial brain, all those emotions and reactions and negative thoughts disappear because you're just purely in the visual brain. So when you take a team through this process of brainstorming a bunch of strategic ideas, moving the Post-it notes around, and then building a model, a visual model for future success, that is kind of the secret team alignment tool. So last night, in 2 hours, I was working with 5 teams, Thomas Wegner and I and our little enterprise transformation team. We're working with 5 teams simultaneously and just taking them through that process of aligning a team around a set of strategies, a desired goal, and an implementation plan. And the very heart of that alignment process always comes down to the visual spatial process. Sorry, that's really technical.
Yeah, no, I mean it's good to know because it is something that maybe doesn't come completely natural to a lot of teams right now, right? Whereas you might have had a whiteboard in your team meeting room when we were working in an office. Not everybody might have heard of Mural or the other thousands of whiteboarding apps that are out there right now. Um, and I think it's an important point to highlight and to underline that. It's an essential part, but it can happen. It's not something where it's like, oh well, we're not together, we can't do it. You just need to, you know, I don't know, do a little research or listen to a smart person on the live stream. Um, so what? Yeah, maybe we go into that a little bit. What are the must-haves from an infrastructure point of view in order to enable that whole process that you're talking about?
Well, let's just back up because I'm a team coach, I'm a facilitator, I'm working as a professional with a team, so I'm the team coach. So that's role number one. So that's kind of the And I encourage everyone to be a professional team coach. It's like a really cool thing to do. It's like an awesome way to take your one-on-one coaching skills to a whole new level. It's hard. It's, how can I say this? A lot of the coaching models and tools you use, they work perfectly in a team coaching setting, but there's a lot more traffic cop and you stop and you go and everyone starts arguing. So you scream louder and stop them and get them back on track. So there's a lot of that crazy energy that is completely different than one-on-one coaching. So that's the first thing, is you're the professional facilitator. The second one is you have a leader who is using a leader as team coach style of leadership. So that's kind of, the leader is functioning as the team coach or using a team coaching style of leadership, which is very much something that leaders can learn how to do. They can kind of get, oh, that's incredibly effective. They kind of have a moment where they understand that this is way more efficient than the old style of telling people what to do. And in that moment, they kind of become a team coaching style leadership. That's the fastest way to transform an organization. Then there's the third element, which is the idea of a self-directed team. So a self-directed team has no leader. A self-directed team, the level of trust is so high, their vision and their shared alignment on that vision and that implementation plan and the strategy. And when they go out of alignment, their commitment to get back in alignment is so strong that they can function leaderless. So this concept of a self-directed team is the ultimate high-performance machine. And so, my job as a professional team coach is to support leaders to take on a team coaching style so that they can create self-directed teams who don't need a leader. And those teams produce amazing results, and you just let them go, and they'll, go off and produce, phenomenal results in an organization. So the question is, in all of that, who's doing what? Is that your question?
Um, no, but what you answer is a lot better than the question that I was going for. So maybe it's because I have the Tetris song stuck in my head now. So thanks for that. Okay, so three stages of how much teams have taken this team coaching approach to heart is, first, somebody comes in from the outside and kind of forces them to play nice with each other. The second stage is that the team leader actually works as the team coach. You don't have somebody coming in from the outside, but the leader leads in a coaching style, which is very empowering, facilitative. Doesn't keep the plate spinning everywhere, but actually trusts people to do their job and encourages and welcomes contributions. And the third one is the leader has made themselves superfluous, which is always our goal as coaches. And the team kind of coaches themselves, and everybody takes on a leadership role as necessary. You didn't say that, but I'm kind of interpreting into that. Okay, wonderful. I mean, what I'm really curious about is, how many teams out there have you seen that have attained this third level? I don't know if that's a good question, but I'm curious.
Well, it's really interesting because, when I started doing this in 2005, team coaching culture in general was a mythical holy grail that was out there in the far future. And there's I never worked with Boeing, but there was a bunch of coaches who worked with Boeing in Seattle, and Boeing had 4 failed team coaching initiatives in a row where they tried to introduce a team coaching culture and just they couldn't figure it out. So for me, I kind of like a challenge. And so I've had these projects over the years where we do a little training, come into an organization and introduce these skills, we introduce the mindset, and then I also had lots of experience where I'm acting as a team coach and introducing it by doing it. And then recently, in the last 6 years, everything changed when I kind of discovered enterprise transformation. And so I encourage everyone, copy me, please copy me. The Q model is a do-it-yourself program, and I encourage everyone to copy me. It's kind of hard, so read the book first because I've learned a few things over the years. But please copy me, run an do-it-yourself program, become a enterprise transformation facilitator. Like, why not? It's fun. Come on in, the water's fun. But the essence of what we're doing is, on one hand, we're kind of doing some training to introduce these skills, just like we talked about the 3 levels. On the other hand, we're doing some team coaching so people can model team coaching. And on the third piece is really sitting down with the leaders in our organization and saying, what is the breakthrough strategy? Where do you want to get to? Where are you at now? What's the mythical breakthrough strategy? And then integrating those 3 parts together. And so that's what we call an enterprise transformation program, where you've got some kind of before and after state that you're trying to create in the organization. And then we're doing a bit of training so people understand the skills and mindset. Then we're also doing a bunch of team coaching so people can copy us and model us, but also just so that we can keep the whole transformation project moving, because organizational transformations has a default state which is slow and stuck. And most organizations, every organization is trying to transform and change. It's just that when they try to implement it, they hit all these barriers and then nothing moves forward. So the answer to your original question, how many companies are doing this? The answer is kind of every company is doing it now, but a lot of them aren't successful. So we've just seen this tremendous transformation over the last 20 years, going from kind of team coaching and organizational transformational being a holy grail that no one ever does. For example, I work with Michelin in China. When I came into the company, I spoke to the entire executive leadership, and I was shocked because every person on their executive team was 100% committed to creating a coaching culture in their organization. I just had never seen that before. I'm used to being the person who comes in and says, hey, let's have a coaching culture. And everyone says, what is that? So I'm shocked.
Yeah, no, I hear you. So I'm struck with one idea that you brought up earlier, and you kind of touched on it again just now. With everybody's doing it, but by far not everybody is successful. That there seems to be that one of the core traits, one of the core skills that you have to have as a transformation monger, if you will, somebody who does who tries to do the transformation, who pitches the transformation, wants
It's
for it
like
to happen.
fishmonger. Get your transformation fresh from the boat.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, to some people, it doesn't sound fresh because it's been tried 4 or 5 times, right? And the fish stinks to them because they've seen it, and all it does is it creates more work because I have my normal work and then I have all that project work they want me to do, and I now have to do it for the 5th time. So this frustration tolerance, this acceptance that there will be mistakes and there will be a lot of work that is completely for the garbage can, and to still be excited about it and to still say the 6th time is going to work. Um, how do you get there? Like, that seems really hard to instill that in people.
Well, I'm going to come back to the key point from before, is the power of teams, right? So if you're trying to do this all logically and create the perfect waterfall plan, in Microsoft project for how we transform the company, the real world doesn't work that way. The real world is about the complexity, the challenge, the confusion, the distraction, the too many things to do and not enough time to do them. And then in the face of that, you have to sit down and you need something stronger than that. And so when a team moves into alignment, they get a vision, they get a sense of bond. Like, we are the team that's going to transform this organization. And when they kind of move into that space, they become unstoppable. They're so committed to doing whatever it takes. Like, for example, I was working in China for the largest advertising company in China. Domo was the division that did mobile advertising, and they came up with this plan to transform the company. It took us 3 months of team coaching sessions with the entire 14 executives. And so they came up with a plan and they all aligned on it. And they were like, yes, we're 100% committed. And then one of them said, wait a second, if we do this, we won't get our annual bonus, which is 40% of our salary for the year. So I just had on a moment, I just said, okay, who here, you're willing to give up your annual bonus, 40% of your salary for the year, because you're so committed to this transformation of the company? And 10 out of 14 executives said yes. Of course, we just had to go to the board and renegotiate the incentives. And frankly, most incentives are designed to block organizational transformation. But the point is that when a team aligns, they are unstoppable. They don't care about anything other than this breakthrough result that they are committed to.
That is fascinating that people actually put their money where their mouth is, right? Because you hear all these things about all these surveys. Well, yes, I would buy more sustainably in order to, I would spend more money in order to have the cows raised in a more ethical way and whatever. And everybody runs to the discounter anyway. But actually putting a substantive amount of your money because you think it's worth it, because it is about so much more than just the next month's paycheck. Um, that is really
Well,
impressive.
actually, HBR, this is post-pandemic. HBR did a survey, and they came up with 9 out of 10 employees would be willing to have less pay in exchange for more meaning in their work. So, there isn't a specific number on that. It's not saying 20% reduction in pay. But nonetheless, the principle is there. We're all craving meaning and purpose in our work.
And I hear a lot of people saying, well, that's such a millennial thing. These youngsters with their, you just show up to work and then you go home, you drink your beer in the evening, and that's that. You don't have to mix work with pleasure or anything like that. So what you're telling me that it's not just a millennial thing?
No, not at all. I mean, I'm the perennial millennial, and I've been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've actually never had a job, and so as an entrepreneur, I'm just a heat-seeking missile personally for meaning and purpose, whatever gives me meaning and purpose. And any age can play this game, and it's just a matter of asking the question, how resigned are you, or how addicted to the couch and the television are you? Because humans are meant to do things that are meaningful. That's what the purpose of our life is to do something meaningful that inspires you and gives meaning and purpose to your life. And a lot of it comes down, if you want it from a missioning point of view, you can put this into a formula. And the formula is energy equals people squared, right? So your life energy will always equal the square root of the number of people who you're serving or transforming in your life. So if you're only in it for yourself, well, 1 times 1 equals 1. So your energy equals 1. And if you're out, this is why a company like Apple became a company like Apple, because they set out to transform the experience of life for everyone on earth through technology. And the number, 7 billion people times 7 billion people is a really big number. So that equals the energy of Apple, which, until Tesla came along, was the most successful corporation in the world. Maybe, I don't know what the stock market's doing today. So probably Apple's back on top.
Yeah. So just to kind of break that down, to simplify it. So what you're saying is kind of the more you help people, the happier you are, the more energy you have, and it's not a linear function, but it is exponential. So if you
Yeah.
help 100 people, it's going to be, or simpler, if you help 10 people, it is leaps and bounds more energy for you than if you just help 5 people. It's not just double, but it's, I don't know how, 400 times as much.
Sure. And so this is kind of like the stakeholders exercise from module 1 of the Erickson Art and Science of Coaching. But it's also you could also think of it as a missioning process where you're asking people, how will the work we're doing here make a difference in the world? And I was working with Alibaba in China, and I sat down with a group of managers, and in a 45-minute conversation, just asking those missioning questions, how will your project make a difference in the life of your team, your company, your customers? Everyone in China and everyone in the world, they completely transformed their energy level because it's an exponential curve. The more that you can see a link between the work you're doing and creating transformational results out in the world, the more passion and energy you have. And frankly, in business, the directive leadership says there is no place for emotion in business. The transformational leadership model says, hey, emotion, positive energy, value words, energy source. Let's use that to drive the transformation of our company.
Yeah, and I think that is something that we need to recognize nowadays, that emotion does play a role, whether we want it to or not, whether we are treating our employees as these floating heads that are completely rational or not, because people are in situations where the private and the business related is just mixed, just by the virtue of spatially it being mixed and that sort of thing. So I think that is very necessary, and might
Well,
as well harness it.
the nasty part is that the so-called logical mind doesn't actually exist. If you look at it from a brain science point of view, decision making is 99% emotional, right? Like, you know, want, desire, so you see something that you want, and then your logical brain goes, whoa, 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 we're getting out of control here, and comes up with some huge story and justification to justify using math and numbers and science and algorithms why you should do whatever it is that you already decided you were going to do emotionally. So that's the way that humans make decisions. Sorry for all you scientists out there, or Dr. Spock. But that's the bottom line, and that's built into the hardwiring of our emotional logical system.
Yeah, um, yeah, couldn't agree more. So we have about 20 minutes left. I would love to kind of get down to brass tacks and to first look at this from the point of view of a CEO who says, we need a transformation. Corona has changed our business model. We're like hemorrhaging capital or whatever. We need to change something. We need to turn this ship around. My people aren't engaged anymore. I need a Paul. Like I need somebody to transform this ship. Um, what should people look for when they want to hire a team coach?
Well, first of all, I just encourage everyone. I'm assuming that I'm speaking to a group of people who are committed to becoming great coaches, and I encourage every great coach to become a great team coach. And so you want to, be the best coach you can be the most professional coach you can be, and put yourself into an environment where you can train and develop yourself, in that mindset of excellence. So of course, I always view it as the enterprise transformation commandos. So we come in, we have a black helicopter that flies in, and then we have a rope that comes down from the helicopter, and we come down, and we're all in black commando gear. We go into the boardroom, we have a quick whiteboarding session with all the executives, and then we transform the company. Then we get back in the helicopter and fly to the next company. So I encourage everyone to just put that in your mind, and it's inevitable that you're going to become that enterprise transformation commando. But there's a hierarchy of skills that start with one-on-one coaching. They move up to team coaching. They move up to executive coaching. And that hierarchy of skills, for me, it's, kind of from a coach development point of view, it's climbing the mountain. Right. And so I encourage every coach to just put that in your future. Now, look, you have to kind of be into making a difference in companies and kind of business corporate stuff. If you're committed to spiritual transformation or corporate, the corporate stuff might not fit with you. But here's a little secret: it's all the same. We're always fundamentally working with people around their inner motivation, their inner alignment, all the essence, the humanistic core of Erickson coaching that makes coaching at the solution focused coaching really better than any other coaching model in the world. That's the essence. And then we want to add all this other corporate stuff around that as a transformational system. So, I mean, as a CEO, look, CEO doesn't care about any of that because that's too geek, to coaching geek. So with the CEO coach, here's CEOs are really, really easy. It's someone who asks them really good questions that assist them to think and see a new possibility for some kind of a result that will take the company where they want it to go. So the question every CEO should be asking is this the person who will take me where I need to go? Or is this the team that will take our company where we need to go? And so that's, again, it's going to be 90% intuitive and 10% logical. And so, of course, you got to lead with the logical part. You have to have the professional thing all down so that you can even get your foot in the door. But ultimately, it's just get in, start having a bunch of conversations. In my professional practice and with the Q Model Institute, we have an whole intake process where we have a whole structured system for going into a company and asking these questions. And I'm very open about it, and I encourage everyone to share and copy and go for it. But it's really just a structure to get your foot in the door and start making a difference in an organization, so people have a direct experience of the power of team coaching, and then they can make their decision.
Mhm. Well, if that decision is intuitive to hire a team coach or to hire anybody really, you might argue that probably your upbringing, your culture, all of that plays a big role in that. And if that's the case, how well does the solution-focused coaching model, how well does the Q model work in different cultures around the world, if there is such a fundamental difference in how people make decisions?
Oh, well, the interesting thing about that is, I mean, I've being very, very global, there's a couple places in the earth that I haven't traveled to. One of them is Nairobi, so I'm sorry about that. But uh, there, you could almost think of coaching as the next generation of global communication, right? So coaching, you could think of it as, there's one-on-one coaching as defined by the International Coach Federation, but then there's this other thing called a coaching communication style. And that's an incredibly respectful global style of communication that can work in almost in any environment. And I say this really seriously because I've had so many bad training and team coaching experiences in places like India and Korea and Russia, where I'm just working with some of the most difficult teams in the world. And when in doubt, start moving around the post-it notes, because that's like the one get out of jail free tool that will always work. The visual spatial thinking system cannot help but be pulled in by the moving of the post-it notes. So those kind of tools are universal, and they just are speaking. Although we have our cultural differences, 99% of the human brain is the same. So we as coaches want to make use of the core structure of the human mind so we can speak directly to people's learning and growth needs.
Mhm. I'm going to challenge your memory here. We have Natasha Ivanovska saying, "Hi from Macedonia. I was lucky to have you as the art and science of coaching trainer in Belgrade in 2011."
Hey, like I said, I do a lot of traveling, and there's this. Sometimes people comment on the crazy Paul Gossen style, which I admit is can be over the top, and so I try to tone it down a little bit. But for me, enterprise transformation is a bit of an extreme sport, right? And the extreme sports are base jumping and paragliding, and those hiking to Antarctica. So you want to approach it like like an extreme sport where you're training and conditioning, and you've got a strong vision of success because you're trying to do something difficult.
Yeah, although there is not much of a tolerance for mistakes in base jumping, I would assume.
Okay, maybe that's too extreme.
All right. So if people want to do the crazy Paul Gossen thing and they want to get up in the middle of the night to work with 5 teams simultaneously. So you said there's this hierarchy of skills, right? I kind of start out with my one-on-one coaching, I graduate to team coaching in a way, and then I upskill even to executive coaching. If I am now hooked and I want to start my journey as a team coach, what would you recommend? What are some things that some quick wins, and what do I really need to put in place to scale that mountain?
Oh, it's a great question. And I'm always partnering with coaches and consultants and Erickson partners around the world. So we're always looking to expand the team and do more interesting projects. From a learning and development point of view, first of all, let's just start with coaching. And there's lots of people who take a coaching program, maybe they even have 100 hours or 500 hours of coaching. But let's just face it, getting a contract is hard, right? So, there's parts of coaching that are difficult. And so, really honing your skill to be able to get a contract fast is one of those skills that is partially logical and partially intuitive. And it's a just do it kind of thing. So, you want to hone your skills as a one on one coach. Team coaching, there's a lot of shifting gears. It's kind of like you're suddenly herding cats. Herding goats is really easy because you just feed the goats and they'll follow you. But cats are going to go wherever they want to go. They're just going to go in 100 directions. And so herding the cats is, well, there's herding and then there's hurting the cats. So you don't want to hurt the cats. But herding cats is hard. So team coaching has a lot of, waving your arms in the air, hoping it will fly. And it's more challenging as a skill set. Executive coaching is another one. Executives have they're kind of strange and interesting creatures. I've spent a lot of time working with CEOs and VPs, and they have a very tiny amount of time, and they have a lot of expectations and demands on their time. And so you have to be able to, as a coach, to show extreme value in a very short amount of time, or else they'll just tune you out and send you out. Right? So that skill, that's kind of extreme contracting, so you can get the most relevant challenge or issue and pull that out and then work with them to quickly develop a solution or breakthrough in that area. And this whole thing about inner leadership, they don't care about that. They have a problem, they want it solved, and that problem has to be the big problem that's preventing their organization from moving forward. And so if you can kind of navigate your way through that as an executive coach, that's the number one skill that is missing for executive coaches, is being able to do that extreme contracting, so that otherwise the executive just fires you. And I did a project in China where we had 7 coaches, and I was the only coach who didn't get fired by the executives. And so that's when I went back and retrained them all. Here's what you need to do in order to not get fired by an executive. And then finally scaling that up to an organization, and so for me, I used to be really focused on solution-focused coaching. Then I was really focused on Q model, which is a simplified version of everything. But then I started realizing, well, look, there's agile, and then there's design thinking, and then there's lean startup, and there's so many good question sets and tools and approaches, and integrating those things together is really powerful. So there's more skill sets that come together to bring it all together. Ultimately, you're also a salesman. You never stop selling. And for me, developing a solution-focused selling methodology, so I could use all my coaching skills as a salesperson in order to be in alignment as a salesperson. So most coaches think that selling is the polar opposite of coaching. And so can you see how that fundamentally stops you from being successful? So getting those two things into alignment is completely transformational. So those are some of the core skills.
Yeah, okay. So give us an example of that. What I mean is, what do people get when they buy the Q Model book? And what do people get when they sign up to the high performance team coaching course that Erickson offers?
Well, first of all, Marilyn and I have been working really intensively for the last 6 months to take the quote unquote old high performance team coaching course and kind of recreate it into a new online format and kind of polish everything up. So that process has been going on for the last 6 months. So there's the new online version, which is very much refreshed. And then we have a new corporate version, which is specifically designed for leaders and managers who want to embody the coaching mindset, the team coaching mindset. So I would suggest, that's just the beginning of the journey. I would suggest that everyone should take the high performance team coaching course. They should, certainly read the Q Model book, which is frankly full of stories and it's very systematized, and it even has endnotes, so it's quite, academic. But ultimately, really play with some of those systems and models for creating transformational results in teams. Um, Ultimately, just do a lot of team coaching. For I think in 2006, took on coaching startups because I just wanted a lot of team coaching experience. And startups didn't have any money, but if I was willing to work for a really low price, I could have unlimited clients. So I did that for a couple of years just to get a lot of team coaching experience. And also, startups are the easiest team coaching in the world. Like if you get a bunch of startup entrepreneurs and you ask them, what is your vision? Whoosh, that's the only thing they have is vision, right? So you'll never have a hard time getting a vision from a group of startup entrepreneurs, which is the opposite of most executive clients. So just do a lot of team coaching and really build your chops so that you know that you have the experience to deal with lots of challenges.
Mm, great. So, how can Ericsson coaches and Ericsson partners get involved with that if they want to have more of a team coaching element to what it is that they do?
Well, we have a little secret program that we're preparing to launch. I've been working really closely with the kind of some of the Ericsson folks who've been working with the Q model and the leaders coach style for many years. I'm working a lot with Tamir from Israel, Ericsson Israel, and we've also worked a lot with Zarin. Of course, I have had a partnership with Ericsson China now for 12 years. And so there's lots of parts of Ericsson that are really linked into this project and lots of other parts that don't know much about it. So I encourage you to get involved. It's kind of like a come on in, the water's fine. There's many, many levels you can interact at. But the most important thing is I just want to make a statement, which is that no coach should feel like there is a lack of money or clients in the world. And paradoxically, most coaches are living in the world of scarcity, which is like, okay, I did my coach training, and how can I get more clients? And it just seems I can't get more enough clients. And okay, so that means you're doing it the wrong way. If eating ice cream doesn't make you happy and taste good, something is wrong about the way that you're eating ice cream. I think we started with sex originally. If having sex doesn't feel good, then that's where we started with that one. That's the polite version of eating ice cream. But can you see that there's something about your mindset with coaching? Every company in the world wants more than anything to transform. And so if you can figure out what you need to do in order to address that core need, you will never be short on clients or projects or opportunities. So I really challenge each and every person to just step in, build the skills, build the mindset, and learn by doing, by just rolling up your sleeves and having a lot of coaching conversations, and you will figure your way through.
Hmm. Yeah, so that challenge is out there. The gauntlet has been laid down. Paul, we're coming up on the top of the hour here. What might be one thing? I mean, that was already beautiful, but what might be one thing that um, we haven't touched on yet that you really want people to take away from this conversation?
Oh, wow. Let's see. I made a list. Well, I just more than anything, I mean, frankly, if anyone knows me, they know that I'm kind of a meditation geek, and I actually have no interest at all in coaching or team coaching or enterprise transformation. All I really care about is the transformation of the inner world of each human on earth, right? And so if there was that's really all that I care about. So I'm going to ring my bell. And with the sound of the bell, I send a blessing for the inner transformation of each listener and each person on earth. So thank you.
Well, thank you very, very much for that, Paul. Everybody, if you want to start your journey as a team coach, there is a special offer for team coaching throughout April. So maybe take advantage of that. Team coaching, also, like I mentioned last week, is one of those rare opportunities where you get to learn directly from and with Marilyn Atkinson. So that is an extra incentive in my
And
book.
Paul.
And Paul.
Yeah, we're co-leading that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, so sorry. Yes, Marilyn and Paul. Paul and Marilyn, however, whatever order you see these live streams in. Um, thank you very, very much. Everybody, please feel free to comment on what you're taking away from this stream, what you've been learning, what your most important or what your most actionable thing is that you took away. And other than that, I really can't add to what Paul said. Please stay safe. Thrive, change the world one conversation at a time and one team at a time from now on. So, talk to you in a week.
Hey.